Welcome to tonight's presentation. My name is Rob Tacklin, and I'm a senior associate here at Civitas Strategies. And Sol is going to be our interpreter tonight, and she's provided excellent interpretation services for our company over the years. Now, uh, tonight we'll be going over how to assess your business. But before we jump into the content, I just want to give a quick word about who we are. So Civitas Strategies was founded in 2009 with one mission. That was to help organizations become more financially stable and sustainable. We work with small businesses in fields where the work is deeply personal and community rooted, and where business support has historically been hard to come by. We work behind the scenes with government agencies and foundations to offer support to doulas just like you. And that's really important because it means you're never charged for our services. Our team works across the country and interacts with over 17,000 small businesses every year. We've helped small businesses collectively gain over $1.2 billion, that's billion with a B, in added revenue, cost savings, and reduced risk. And that means more stability, more client retention, and ultimately better outcomes for families. Now, we work with government agencies and foundations, including the Burke Foundation and the Henry Marilyn Taub Foundation, who fund this program. And also, before we get started, a quick disclaimer. The information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. The Civitas Strategies team has used reasonable efforts in collecting, preparing, and providing this information, but does not guarantee its accuracy, completeness, adequacy, or currency. The publication and distribution of this information are not intended to create, and receipt does not constitute an attorney-client or any other advisory relationship. Reproduction of this information and recording of this content, including the use of AI, are expressly prohibited, and only non-commercial uses of this work are permitted. Okay, so today we're going to talk about resilience in your business. We'll talk about some of the most common habits of resilient doula businesses, and we'll talk about how you can assess your own business against these specific habits. So if you have a notebook, if you don't have a notebook, I recommend that you go out and get one, or you go and grab one and come back. If you do have a notebook, I recommend that you create a little space in your notebook on the side there called the parking lot, because almost inevitably, and if you're anything like me, you're going to have ideas or thoughts, questions, even things that you have to do later tonight, and you don't want to forget them. So put those down in the parking lot so that way you can stay focused and keep your notes organized there. It's definitely a helpful thing to have on the side of your notebook. Okay, so we've done some focus reviews on the business model in multiple states with over 17,000 small business interactions a year, and we've reviewed thousands of tax returns. In addition, we've conducted a comprehensive study of doula business models in the state of New Jersey in partnership with the Burke Foundation and the Henry and Marilyn Taub Foundation. We interviewed 29 doula business owners, and uh, we've surveyed 44 doulas across the state. Critically, the research was guided by a doula co-designer committee, meaning doulas had a direct hand in shaping what we looked at and how we've interpreted what we found. There are 5 indicators that we'll walk through today that came directly from that work. These are the practices of doulas who are making it work in this state, in this field, right now. So here's where we start. When we surveyed 44 doula businesses across New Jersey, nearly 6 in 10 reported they were not profitable. That's a significant number, and it's not because those doulas weren't working hard or didn't care about their clients. It's because running a sustainable doula business requires a specific set of business practices that most of us were never taught. The good news is that the 41% who were profitable shows exactly what those practices look like, and every single one of them can be learned. So let's take a closer look at what we found. When we talk about resilience, we mean businesses that can weather changes and come out stronger. Through our research with doula businesses in New Jersey, we've identified 5 key elements that resilient doula practices share. One is diversified revenue. We'll talk more about what that looks like to make sure you have different revenue streams coming into your business. The next one is marketing and mentorship, showing up in the right place, the right time to the right people, and having the right people around you has really made a difference. Having professional boundaries and sustainability, um, recognizing that the business is a business and the business is being run by a human. And so being able to make sure that you as a human are taking care of yourself. Um, Community connection is making sure that you're surrounded by a good community and that you are being an integral and critical part of your community that you're near or and in. And then technology integration, being able to leverage uh, the benefits of technology has really set business owners apart. Now, cash flow and adaptability anchor all five indicators because without financial stability and the ability to respond to change, none of the other elements can hold. Take a look at these elements, and as we walk through each one, think about where your practice feels strong and where there might be room to grow. Um, Now, in addition to these elements, cash flow and adaptability serve as an anchor. Without financial stability and the ability to respond to change, none of the other elements can hold. Now, when we talk about cash flow, um, we'll talk more about the opportunity to learn really what cash flow looks like. We'll also talk a little bit more about the different streams that can come in and what causes cash flow to rise and fall. Okay. Now, again, it is the foundation everything is built on. Your business cannot run without revenue, right? Because and it's not just about profit. It's also about timing. Resilient doulas track what's coming in and going out closely to monitor purchases and control loss. That starts with knowing your real costs. Doulas who struggle financially often don't have a clear picture of what it actually costs them to operate. New doulas face startup investments between $2,300 and $6,500. And that's before monthly costs of transportation, software, insurance, and continuing education. When you don't know your real costs, you can't set rates that will sustain you. Resilient doulas don't match what everyone else charges, they calculate what they need and charge that. So when considering your rates, um, there are the needs of your business. Okay, so what your business needs to run, to include the things we just mentioned, transportation, software, and insurance. But it also requires you to know what you need. So most doulas, they start out having a job. They find out that they love this kind of work. They get their education and their license to practice, and then they practice. But in that space, in that time, they know that they might still be working somewhere, right? And they know what they need to survive. So before they make that jump into business ownership, they need to make sure that their funds, that their livelihood, um, can still be covered, right? Whether a doula has a family to cover, or maybe they don't have a family, but they have expenses like rent, food, car payments. These are your actual need. And then there's that idea of, well, what are other people charging, right? And so you take those three factors and combine them, and that can give you an idea of what your rates should be. Okay. So when talking about understanding your rates, talking about understanding your cash flow, it is so, so important to really know exactly how to set your rates and what's going in, or what's coming in and what's going out. Um, One other thing about your cash flow, it's also important to manage expectations appropriately because you don't exactly know how often you're going to get paid especially at first. So recognizing that when you launch your business, that there's a beginning and then there's a middle portion where you're kind of maintaining and maybe there's some growth there. And then towards the end of your business cycle, you'll end up either selling your business or closing it down, um, either way, or even handing it over to another person. Um, Either way, that rise and I guess that whole business cycle has different expectations, different needs for cash flow, um, right, different expenses, and it's going to be important for you to take all of those things into consideration. Now, with that growth can come diversified revenue. So, diversified revenue is all about building stability. If your entire income depends on one source, one slow stretch can put your whole business at risk. So imagine having several clients and then no clients, right, for maybe several months. That can really cause a feast or famine kind of business. And that can be really dangerous, especially if you have a lot of expenses and needs that you're responsible for. Resilient doulas think like financial architects. They look at who they're billing, what services they're offering, and how they're structuring their payments. Adding postpartum support, childbirth education, or lactation services isn't just about passion, it's a stability strategy. Requiring a deposit at contract signing gives your cash flow a buffer while you're waiting on the next birth. Now, this connects directly to Medicaid, which we'll cover on the next slide. Medicaid is one of the most important income streams available to New Jersey doulas because it comes with its own cash flow challenges that require intentional planning. So, when we talk about having diversified revenue streams, it's definitely important to look at not just having clients that are coming in paying you for, working through their concerns, their birth plans, their alternate birth plans, right? They're paying you for that, but they're also probably going to be there's probably going to be an opportunity for you to provide other education and other services to increase your revenue, right? And when you go to increase your revenue, if you're maybe if you're looking at having a community of people that of moms that are going to be moms or moms that have already used your services, that could be one thing, right? Maybe you're really into nutrition and pre and postnatal nutrition. That can also be helpful. Um, even lactation consultants for moms who've never done it before, or maybe they come from a family who's never had lactation consultants or even breastfed at all, right? This could be the beginning of a community for them, which they wouldn't mind paying to be a part of, right? Um, and obviously, with what it is that you do, there's going to be a level of community and support, right? Because it's a very emotional interaction and an emotional event in a woman's life. So having that community, especially if especially if this is their first home birth, or if you're providing that as a service, right? If you're doing home births, or if let's say you have let's say you offer like to do water births, right? Being able to add that as maybe an additional cost, right? Because let's face it, there are risks involved. And so here's another piece to consider, um, when it comes to your revenue streams and also with your rate setting as well. Uh, if you if you go if one of your services is water birth at home, right? Making sure you have insurance in place to cover what could happen is is important to the survival of your business, because if something were to happen, you'd have to either self-insure or wait until the insurance, can assist in covering any costs. So with that being the case, if you had a claim and that claim had a deductible, would your business have the ability to pay the deductible? Well, making sure that you have a cash reserve in place to assist with that is important. So, um, I say that because if you have a practice where you want to have diversified revenue, making sure you have the insurance policy in place and the premiums to support it, um, that's also going to determine your rates, right? So going back to that cost of what does it cost me to run my business? Well, I'm going to have an insurance policy that covers all these different revenue streams that I'm offering, lactation consultant or water births at home, home births, or even pre and postnatal care. Um, all of these ancillary services are also going to need to be covered by your errors and omissions insurance, right? Or your other general liability insurance. So that policy is going to have a premium. That premium is going to have to be reflected in your rates. Now let's talk about Medicaid. So Medicaid is a key part of revenue diversification for New Jersey doulas and one of the most significant financial pressure points. The credentialing process typically takes 45 to 90 days, and even after that, payment delays of months are very common. That's not a reason to avoid Medicaid, because doulas who serve Medicaid clients are reaching the families who need them the most. But resilient doulas will plan for this. They maintain a mixed client base, so private pay revenue sustains the business while Medicaid payments process. They treat credentialing as a planned project, not as an afterthought. So if you haven't started the credentialing process yet, we have a step-by-step guide for each MCO available on the Thrive for Doulas platform. And at the end of this presentation, I'll show you a QR code so that way you can sign up for it if you haven't signed up for it already. Now, this also allows you to think about a key portion of your business, which is what's your ratio going to be, right? So think of your capacity a, a as a doula. You know, how many clients can you have per month, right? How many clients can you handle? Maybe it's in a quarter, right? And of that capacity, let's say it's 4 clients a month. Um, how many can you have as private pay, and how many can be supported by Medicaid, right? If you look at it out of the year, right, how many clients can you handle in a year? What percentage of those clients can you afford to be Medicaid and how many can you have that are private pay? I also want you to consider your timeline, right? So if you're already an established doula, then as an established doula, you may already have a pipeline of private pay clients, right? Well, then, and if you're new to the Medicaid process, then maybe consider having that money set aside for the 45 to 90 day lag time, right? To be able to carry you and those expenses that you have as a business owner and as a person, make sure that you have the cash reserves to be able to carry you through those months. If you're just starting out, be sure you have um, be sure you have that money set aside. If you don't have that money set aside before you launch, then consider um, making Medicaid a goal, right? So being able to be credentialed as a goal, to maybe first goal is to have your first several clients provide that are private pay, right? In your first phase of your business. And then in the sustain part of your part of your business, maybe that's when you start to take on Medicaid clients. So that way you have a reserve built up. So take on private pay clients for a while, have a second goal of build a financial reserve, and then to be able to cover at least 90 days worth of your expenses. Once you reach that milestone, then consider taking on one Medicaid client, so that way you have the revenue to be able to sustain uh, caring for these clients, and then also not have to go into personal reserves, right? Or take out a loan or use a credit card to pay for bills, right? That's not where you want to be, right? So making sure that you are intentional about navigating, your Medicaid journey, right? Now, having professional boundaries is that, this leads right into having these professional boundaries because um, making sure that you're sustainable will also require you to sustain yourself physically and mentally. You want to be able to set limits on on-call hours and build in recovery time between births and investing in your own growth, because they aren't luxuries. They're core business strategies. You want to be intentional. I think that's the key word. Because doula burnout is real. And when you burn out, your business is vulnerable. Clear contracts and defined scope of practice allow you to bring your full compassion to every client without compromising your sustainability. The doulas in the research project that we completed who had built sustainable practices over time had found ways to protect their own capacity, through contracts that set clear expectations, recovery time between births, and a commitment to continued learning. Remember, you can't take everyone home, right? You can't adopt them all, okay? It's going to be hard sometimes to set those boundaries because the things that these moms are going to share with you are going to be very personal in nature. And there's going to be, if you're in this line of work, there's going to be a temptation to want to roll up your sleeves, swoop in, and save the day. It's going to be very important, uh, especially with some of the situations you're going to face, whether it's with trauma or with abuse or neglect. There's going to be some financial challenges as well. You're going to have to you're going to have strong boundaries, set reasonable and realistic expectations early and sometimes often. Okay. So you have to remember that you are the business, right? And without you, your business is not going to continue. So if you burn out with the first three clients because they were so either mentally draining or physically draining, or it cost you and your family time and effort and energy, or if it costs too much, um, then it's not going to be a viable business, right? For sustainability purposes, you're going to need to be clear about your expectations so that will end your boundaries, and expect them to be pushed. Expect your boundaries and your limits to be pushed, just like kids will, right? You set a rule, people are going to try to push it. And I'm not saying it's okay, but it is human nature. So it's going to be important for you to manage those expectations of your own self and of the people that you serve. Now, let's talk about marketing. Okay. Marketing and mentorship are both about building relationships with clients, with healthcare providers, and with your professional community, meaning other doulas. Almost every doula in our study uses social media, but the doulas with the highest referral rates and the highest profitability are building relationships with obstetricians, midwives, lactation consultants, and other healthcare providers. Those relationships generate a consistent, reliable stream of clients that social media alone simply can't replicate. On social media, uh, I do want to mention that that can be part of your process, right? That can be part of your marketing strategy. However, um, it might not be the main one. It can be great, especially for just starting out, by creating a following, creating a community, um, having some having a record of some things that you've posted. So showcasing your knowledge and wisdom around young momhood, right? Or first time moms, creating credibility for you. If someone goes to search you, right? Search for your name, what comes up, right? Understanding, like, so if you were to type in your name in Google, what would come up? That's another really great thing to do to find out uh, what someone who's considering your services is going to find. So making sure you clean that up and making sure that whatever it is that you find on Google about your name, any articles about you, any posts that you've had or made, or even your business name, you'll want to do both, right? So if you have a separate business name, you'll want to type that in. If you're with an organization here tonight, typing in the name of your organization and the dual services that you've been providing or that your organization has been providing, right? And if there's something that is not in alignment with who you are or what you stand for, you'll want to rectify those things, right? About what's out there about you, right? Um, and if it's something that you can't change, then um, crowd it out, right? Many resilient doulas will identify a specific niche. So that can also help you diversify or even just that can help you get into the communities that you're looking to serve. So one might be high risk pregnancies, specifically with uh, birthing multiples, right? Twins, triplets, etc. Uh, LGBTQ families, VBAC support, um, for interpreter. So that's a um, vaginal birth after cesarean section, right? That creates clear differentiation and makes them the obvious referral for the right providers. Now, you don't have to be everywhere. You have to be the right person, and that the people will think of first, right? Remember that the client experience begins when they first hear about you and ends when they stop thinking about you. So I want you to think of uh, professionals that could be part of your community, right? So when we think of OBs, obstetricians, uh, where are they spending their time, right? How are they connecting? And I'm not usually talking about OBs that are part of a larger network, like a large hospital or something. I'm talking a lot of times the obstetricians that have their own private practice, right? Um, now you a lot of times if you're dealing with a large hospital and if that's the only thing that's around you, or that's the most common thing around you, you sometimes they're okay with sharing the names of local doulas, but not always, right? Sometimes there's corporate red tape, right? So what's the most successful is really going to be even dealing with some uh, private practice OBs or midwives, lactation consultants that have their own private practice is also very popular among doulas, right? So when you think about when marketing, identifying where they spend their time. What groups are they a part of? Consider getting yourself into these groups of where young moms are, right? Um, a lot of times you'll want to look up lactation consultant groups, right? Um, breastfeeding mom groups in the New Jersey area. They might not even be in New Jersey, actually, depending on how far you want to drive, or where you're licensed, right? You might have people that travel out from out of town or even out of state to come to you, right? To make a connection with you. So that's definitely something that, especially if you're near the border of a state, of the state, right? So if like near if if you're up north near New York, or even like further west near Pennsylvania or down south, near Delaware and Maryland, um, you want to make sure that those areas, so, especially like some of the high risk pregnancies, looking at children's hospitals, right? So you have CHOP out in Philly, you've got DuPont down in Delaware. Um, Consider their networks as well, right? Uh, So the mentorship side of this element is covered on the next slide. When we talk about mentorship, um, this is all about identifying someone who's walked this path before. This came through our interviews with real emotional weight. Now, many doulas describe entering this work with deep expertise in birth support, but almost no preparation for running a business. And when they looked around for guidance, they often found competition instead of community. Experienced doulas guarded knowledge rather than shared it. The doulas who are thriving found their way into the opposite of that. Mentors who'd been where they are, peer circles where questions are welcomed, and communities built on the idea that there's enough for everyone. If you're in a space like that right now, that is a resource. Use it. If you're not in a space like that right now, consider creating it, right? So, uh, having that mindset of abundance as a business owner is key. Okay. So recognizing that there is enough for everyone, that there's a significant need for what you do. I mean, if you think about the sheer number of births that are happening in the state of New Jersey, which is, by the way, the most densely populated state in the United States, there's a huge gap of knowledge and education around uh, even the birthing process. And so when we look at the landscape, the opportunity for doulas in New Jersey, it's huge. There's a huge gap of knowledge. And so to establish yourself as someone who's known or who knows about the birth process and about how to answer the questions of a very inquisitive young mom who has maybe not gone through this ever before, or maybe one who is scared and is really just uncertain, you're going to be able to create a community of other people who are looking for the knowledge and wisdom that you have. And you're also going to be able to create a community of people who have the same knowledge that you do or similar knowledge that you do, that are willing to share. Um, a lot of challenges come up when it comes to trust, and the speed of trust uh, comes through humility. And that might be in the form of asking a question. It might be in the form of um, saying that you don't know it all and that you're looking for other doulas that are open to sharing knowledge and wisdom, right? Sharing experiences. You don't have to go it alone. And then when we talk about technology, technology integration is one of the starkest findings in the research. Profitable doula businesses were twice as likely to use integrated technology platforms. And that's not a coincidence. Technology directly protects your time and your bottom line. When your contracts, scheduling, invoicing, and client communication are running through one system, you're spending less time on admin and more time on the work you actually want to do. The doulas in our study who had adopted these tools described them as transformative, not just for efficiency, but for work-life balance. The key is not to do it all at once. Pick one system, learn it, then build from there. And when figuring out what kind of technology to use, it's important for you to do a simple exercise where you do, I call it the time task inventory. Take a week and an index card and a pen and bring it with you wherever you go. Write down what it is you're doing from the start of your day to the end of your day, whatever that means for you, and assign a time to it, meaning estimate how long it takes you to do that task. And when you do this for a week, you'll get some pretty good insight into where your time is going, whether it's sleeping or feeding a kid or talking to clients or marketing, or doing taxes and accounting things. You're going to find what it is that your time is being spent on. And what we want you to do is look at that list and consider automating, delegating, or eliminating those things. If you can automate a part of your day by downloading an app that tracks where you go, so that way you know how many miles you've spent on your business in a given year. So that way, come tax time, you're not spending hours trying to figure out how far you've driven and when. It may help. It's a great time of year to be able to look at, some of your admin tasks because during tax season is when a lot of the admin tasks get piled up and business owners don't know where their time goes. I mean, a lot of it gets dedicated to creating the tax documents and records that they need in the event they have an audit. So it might not be a bad idea to take a look at the different things that you've done over the past month and see what took up the most time. And that way, that can help you that can inform what kind of technology, what systems you should put in place to be able to get time back in your day. Um, Adaptability is the second anchor of the resilience framework, and it ties together everything we've just covered. Regulations can shift, funding can change, and families, um, they evolve. The needs of your family will evolve. The duelists who thrive over time are the ones who stay curious and keep investing in their own development. If you're here right now or you're listening to this recording, that's you. You're being proactive and trying to find out more about how to make this business, this practice, more efficient, more effective, more profitable so you can stay in business. It isn't separate from the business practices we've discussed. Adaptability is what sustains them. Every element we covered, cash flow, revenue, boundaries, personal and professional, marketing, technology, they all require you to keep learning and adjusting. That's not a burden, that's resilience in action. One thing that can help is shifting your mindset with a three-letter word. Whenever you have a task in your business that you have to do, let's say accounting, for example. I have to get all of my tax documents together, and it's painful. I want you to shift that mindset to get, Get. I get to put together my taxes. I get to cold call different obstetricians, different professional offices. And when you shift your thinking from I have to I get to, that can be a game changer. It can shift your mindset to something to make something completely mundane or completely um, painful, for lack of a better word, to something that you might actually look forward to. I know it sounds crazy, but that's definitely something that could happen. Um, I'm just checking the chat here. So thanks for that. So when you get to do these things, if you really think about it, I'll share a quick story. I used to hate doing the dishes, right? I used to come home from work and look at a huge mountain of dishes and I would say I heard this term, like someone say this, a coach once told me, hey, shift your mind with your mindset with this word get. And I said, that's ridiculous. How could that saying that change anything? And then I was at the sink one day, huge mountain of dishes, in a double sink, mind you. And I was like, I get to do the dishes. I get to do the dishes. I get to do the dishes. And then it hit me. I said, I, I, I mean, if I didn't have my wife, I wouldn't have my kids, which I love. I absolutely love having kids. I've always wanted to be a dad. Um, I wouldn't have, I'd probably have TV dinners, like microwave TV dinners, because I wouldn't know anything about nutrition. And I'd probably not cook very often. And I'd probably have like a bunch of plastic stuff around, right? Um, but because I have this full life, um, to me, I get to do these dishes. And now I have dishes and I do them and I don't complain. I actually genuinely enjoy doing the dishes that I have. So weird, but it works. So, um, when we talk about myths that can hold you back, you've just seen a roadmap of all the practices that resilient doulas have, right? Before we move to the self-assessment, I want to clear away a few common beliefs that can keep doulas from ever getting started on this work. Let's start by tackling a few myths that hold many doulas back. Myth one, it's too overwhelming. I don't even know where to start, right? Uh, I hear this all the time. The truth is, every successful doula started with just one clear step. Myth number two, I only need to reassess once a year. This is also not true. We've worked with hundreds of small businesses that are strong precisely because they check in regularly, not just once a year. Myth number three, there's no clear roadmap. Everyone has to figure it out alone. That's also false. There is a roadmap, and you don't have to go it alone. That's what today's session is all about. It's seeing that pathway clearly. Now, I'm going to pause here and do a quick, honest self-check. Ask you to do a quick, honest self-check. This is just for you. You don't need to share it. Look at each habit here and mark where you honestly are. Strong, growing, or just starting. There's no judgment. The goal isn't a perfect score. It's clarity. The most important thing that comes out of this isn't how many strongs you have. It's knowing where to focus first. So take 2 minutes to do this. I'll read them out loud. Habit one, I know my real costs and price accordingly. Number two, I have more than one income source. Number three, I use at least two technology tools strategically. Number four, I have active healthcare provider referral relationships. Number five, I have an intentional Medicaid approach. Six, I protect my own capacity and set clear boundaries. And seven, I have mentors or a peer community that I rely on. Now, here's the key takeaway. Where do you stand? Are there habits you can develop that would be most impactful to your business? Start there. Pick 1 to 3 small, specific goals and focus on them. Building resilience is about steady progress, not perfection. Every improvement you make strengthens your foundation. Look at your just starting column. Pick the one that feels most urgent, or the one that would have the biggest impact on your stability if you addressed it. Write down one concrete step. Not a goal, just a step. Something specific you can do in the next 30 days. That's where resilience starts. Now, assessment isn't something you do once and move on from. It's a practice. The most resilient businesses we've worked with have built a habit of checking in regularly. Things change. Your client mix shifts. Medicaid policies will evolve. And maybe you add a service, or maybe you lose a referral source. Take on a new expense. When that happens, you need to know where you stand. Maybe you have a new child that comes into your life, right? Your business will evolve over time. Client bookings, revenue streams, operations, and goals, they can all shift. Regular reassessment helps you spot new opportunities, avoid risks, and make confident decisions. Build this into your calendar quarterly is a solid rhythm. And anytime something significant changes in your business, that's your cue to pause and reassess. Here's a list of major changes that can impact your business. Take a look at this list. Chances are you've experienced at least one of these in the past year. Some are growth moments, like a new specialty, more clients, or a better tool. Some are disruptions, like a slow stretch, policy change, or a shift in what families need. Either way, the response is the same. Pause, check in with your numbers and your goals. Now, here's some key takeaways before we wrap up. One, there's a best practice model for dual business resilience. Two, you can achieve it with support and focus. And three, self-assessment gives you the roadmap to start and continue. Remember, every resilient business started with one change. You don't need to do everything today. You just need to start. Also, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to get going. Resilience isn't built in a day. It's built over time through consistent effort and self-assessment. Celebrate progress, not perfection. If you take just one thing from today, let it be this. Resilience isn't luck. It's built through intentional, informed action. Side note for your parking lot, watch the domino effect on YouTube. Okay. It shows that little things build up over time. And your ability to take one step at a time in the right direction will show that you have massive results as long as you continue to take the right steps. Don't have to be big, just a little more. Now, everything we walked through today, the habits, the self-reflection, the action step, that's your foundation. And we're building on it. Later this year, we're going to launch a business health assessment that's designed specifically for doula businesses built from this same research. It will walk you through your business systematically, identify your highest priority focus areas, and connect you directly to the tools and coaching that match where you are. If you register on the Thrive for Doulas platform, you'll be among the first to know when it's available. The platform is also where you'll find the bilingual business tools, coaching tracks, and the MCO credentialing guide. It's all free, all built for you. Now, before you leave today, I want you to take 60 seconds to look back at your self-reflection. Circle your top priority, write down one step. And if you haven't registered on the Thrive for Doulas platform yet, do that today.